Without further ado, let's get started. My name is Ellis Devine and I work here in marketing at Magnolia's UK office. And I would like to welcome you to our second DXplained episode, Optimize Your Content with Magnolia's personalization capabilities. Our DXplained mini-series is designed to cover the most relevant topics in enough detail and in only 20 minutes. Today's session is led by one of Magnolia's senior solution architects, Chris Jennings, who communicates daily with customers, showing how they can get the most out of Magnolia. He will provide us today with a short business user and technical demo under the hood of Magnolia's personalization capabilities to help you optimize your content and digital experiences. Now, before we get started, if you have any comments, reactions, or any questions throughout the demo, please feel free to drop them in the Q&A box below. All questions will be addressed at the end. Please sit back, relax, and enjoy. It's over to you.
Hello, this is Chris from the Magnolia Services team, and this is a short video to demonstrate some of the functionality available around personalization of content. Personalization is where we change the content within a web page depending on different traits we can recognize about the user that's requesting the page. If we log into the site here, we'll take a look at a simple page that we've got built ready to add some personalization to. Now, we can personalize an entire page, which creates a copy, which we can start to change to serve to different people, but it can be somewhat limiting. Another feature that we have is the ability to personalize components inside a page, and this can allow us to personalize several different pieces of content all in the same page. So if we open this page up for editing, we'll take a look. This is a very simple homepage for an e-commerce site that sells mugs. We've got 3 components in here, and we'll look at personalizing them using different traits about the users so that we can give them the best possible experience. And the first thing we'll take a look at is how we might go about personalizing this banner up here with a large image in the front. The image shows coffee mugs, which is one product that our online store sells. But we may also want to personalize this to put other products in here and then perhaps tie that to how people arrived on our website so that we can give them a very quick recognition that we stock what they're looking for. Now, to do this, first off, we'll select our component and we will choose an action from the right-hand side here that says Add Component Variant. If we do this, Magnolia creates a copy of the component for us. And we can see here, we have the original component and now we have our new variant component. So we can edit the variant component and we can still see our drop down here. And we can make a very quick change to say instead of that picture of coffee mugs, let's have these teacups instead. We save those changes. Now we've got 2 different versions of the component, so we've got 2 different versions of our page. The next thing to do is to associate that with a group of people to make sure that the right people see the right version. And for that, we have an action here, which is Choose Audience. Now, what we want to do is we want to, let's say we're running an AdWords campaign to attract people to the website who've searched for teacups. So we could say our searchers of teacups is the audience that we're aiming for here. And here is where we match the traits of our users to put them into that grouping. If we take a look here, we can see we have various different traits available to us. And one of these that has been pre-configured for us here is the ability to use a URL parameter. And in this case, it's UTM term. Now, we can set this to look at different UTM parameters, and perhaps we want to associate different versions of our page with different campaigns that we're running, perhaps on social media, perhaps through email. Magnolia can recognize a UTM ID, can understand which campaign has brought the user to the site, and can present them different content, perhaps something that aligns with the theme of that campaign. In this case, UTM term is a standard parameter that's available to us when we buy paid search results, and it will allow us to see what did the user search for when our ad was shown, and it's that ad that has then brought them into the website. So we can say when people search for teacups, we're going to show them this version of the page, and they get instant feedback that they've come to the right place. So if we save those changes now, we can switch between our different versions, and we can check that we've got everything set up nicely for them. And if we launch a preview, we can see what this looks like. So here's our homepage, and we can see that by default, it's going to be the picture of the coffee mugs. However, we can change this, and if we say UTM term equals teacups, then we'll see that the user is going to get the teacup version of the page. Now, I've added some links in here so we can see what does this look like in a headless world. And let's just take a look. If we strip the term off the back here, then we will see that by default, we're going to serve people with an image that we're calling mugs banner. But if we put that back on up here and we say instead UTM term equals teacups, we can see that the REST response that Magnolia generates is going to include details about a different image. So this means we can continue these personalization techniques when we're using a headless front end. We have a JavaScript client or something else downstream of Magnolia. We can still provide a personalized response as long as these parameters are passed through into Magnolia, then it can provide the correct response. So with that one out of the way, let's take a look at another thing that we might want to personalize on. And this time we'll take a look down at the bottom here. This is a banner that the Magnolia mug store is running to encourage people to download a piece of desktop software that they can use then to design their own mug. Now, because of the language of the mug maker tool, let's say we found it doesn't work on mobiles. So we don't want to waste users' time, particularly when they're on a mobile device with a very limited amount of screen estate. We don't want to waste their time with this banner. So what we can do here is we can say, well, let's have another variant. And what we'll do is we'll start off by changing our original version here. And what we've got in this banner is we've got the ability to hide it so that it doesn't display itself. So what we can do is we can say, right, hide this banner so that nothing gets rendered. And now we say we're just going to have an empty space. And now we switch over to the variant and we can see that we are going to see that banner. So we're going to make the component invisible by default, and we'll just make it show up when the right people come along. So now we go to our choose an audience and we will say, this is for desktop users. And we can add our trait into here. And in this case, we're looking at request headers. We're going to use the user agent header that allows us to see, is this or is this not a mobile device? So if we say we're going to pick that, now we simply have the choice of, is this for users who claim to be a mobile or not? So if we say this is for desktop users, we can save those changes. And now we can see a desktop user is going to be encouraged to download our piece of software, while all other users, so that's default users, that's people about whom we don't understand what their device is, and it's people who explicitly say that they are on a mobile device, they're not going to see our banner at all. So now we can preview that, and we can take a look at how that works. So here we are. By default, we're not going to see the banner down at the bottom here, but I have a tool in here that allows me to change my request headers. And so this is saying we're on a mobile, but now if we pass this in and we say, no, we're not on mobile, we're on a desktop, now we can see that the banner is going to appear down at the bottom. This, again, works through a headless view. And we can see here that this property that we gave it about hidden, this is false because we're still sending through this header to say we are not on a mobile and therefore we're not going to hide this. But if I put that back in and say I am on mobile, now we see that hidden is true. So this allows integration to very, very detailed apps, which perhaps the app is making the decision about what kind of user is this. They can then report this to Magnolia through a header when they make the request, and we can provide the correct data for the app to use to present the right journey to people. So Magnolia does not have to present the personalized journey. It simply provides the content for the journey to be personalized downstream. Now, those were two examples of what we might call explicit personalization, where we know exactly what the user has searched for because they came to us with a URL parameter, or we know exactly what kind of device the user has because they've sent us a request header to tell us exactly what they're using. But sometimes personalization is a little more complex, and this is when we want to talk about implicit personalization, where we observe the user doing something on our website and we want to send them content that matches what we think their intentions are. And for that, we're going to take a look at this banner up at the top here. This is a promotional banner that's telling people when they spend £50, they can have free delivery. Now, this is taking a very prominent position at the very top of our homepage. And much like the banner down here that we saw for desktop users, this is wasted space when the user already has £50 worth of goods in their basket. There's no need to encourage them to spend more because they're already over that threshold. So what we can do here is we can add a component variant, and now we'll modify this to say that this is going to be hidden for some users, and we can attach that to an audience, and we want to be able to remove people who have spent more than £50. So for this, when we come to choose our audience, we can say high value baskets. And we can add some traits into here. Now in this case, we're going to use a cookie trait, which has been set up within Magnolia and will be managed in the front end. As people add things to their basket, we will just store a rounded up value of different levels within our understanding of customer behavior. And then Magnolia will serve different content to those different groups as they reach a particular level. But what we hit here, we can see we have multiple values stored that the user may go up to. So we may wish to say, well, I want to hide this from people who've got £50 of goods in their basket, but also I want to hide it from people who have £100 worth of goods in their basket. And then I want to continue it and say also for people who have £200 of goods in their basket. And this gets quite complicated. If we wanted to set a lot of these personalizations, we have to keep on clicking all of these different groups. And we can mix and match these as well. And we could say users on a mobile who have £100 of goods in their basket, or people who searched for this and have this value of goods in their basket. It's very complicated to try and keep track of all of these sometimes if we have to keep on entering them every time. So for that, Magnolia allows us to build a segment. And a segment is simply an aggregation of different user traits. So if we take a look at that, we have a segment app back here in the app launcher, and we say we want to create a new segment. So we give our segment a name. It's £50 baskets and up. And here we can pick several traits, any one of which will put the user into that segment. So this is where we can say a rounded basket value of £50 or a basket value of £100 or a rounded basket value of £200. And by setting these once, we have them grouped together so we can make changes in the future. If we switch the offer over to be people with a basket value of £75, then we could change these criteria here. And that would then be visible in every personalization around the site that was related to this trait. It also means that we as developers, as administrators, can pre-build segments here and give them to users. They don't need to worry about how people get into these segments. They don't need to know about the different cookie values that are there. They can just be given a segment of people with £50 and above baskets, and they can match up personalizations to that. So we save our changes here. Now, when we return to the page and we return to our hidden banner up at the top here, now when we say choose audience, we can say this is people with high value baskets. And we can simply pick our segment out from the list here. We don't need to worry about the traits down here. And indeed, we could configure Magnolia now to hide these away so that all a user could ever do was pick a pre-built segment. So we save those changes, and now we've got two different versions of our banner there. Now, because we've tied this into a cookie, it could be a little more complicated to get a good preview of that. We could start using the site and we could add things into a basket until we reached a certain threshold, but that could be quite slow. And it's going to be a very difficult, cumbersome testing process if we've got lots of different cutoff points and lots of different pages that we need to test. So to get around that, we have an option here. When we preview our page, we have the option here to preview as visitor. Now what this does now is Magnolia loads the page for us. It removes all of the green bars and it puts this extra little console just down the side here. What this allows us to do is to masquerade as another type of user. And we can use this add button to give ourselves traits to pretend to be somebody and to see what the website would look like for them. So what we can do is we can say here, what if I had a cookie with a basket value, and what if that value was £25? Well, we can see that the free delivery banner stays in place, and we can try again. We can say, well, what if it was £50? And we can see that it disappears. And we can do this for all of our other traits as well. So we can say here, well, what if I was using a desktop device? And we would see that the piece of the software download that we hit before is now available again. And we could say, well, what if I had come here from paid search? What if I had searched for tea? We see Magnolia reloads the page and we didn't tie anything to the word tea on its own. We tied it to the phrase teacups. And so now we can see our changes are in here. Now, these, again, could become cumbersome if we had lots and lots of changes to make. What if I had this combination of basket value, and I was on a mobile device and I had searched for something in particular, it can be very difficult to keep track of all of the different combinations, particularly if we're trying to target a particular group of users. We want to be able to say, what does it look like if I'm this user? And we want to be able to accurately reproduce that user again and again. So for that, what we use is a technique that we call a marketing persona. The Personas app is in here, and this allows us to create a preset user who has certain qualities about them. So we saw the searching for teacups example. We could say, I want a new user who has come to the site having searched for teacups. We can call them any name we like, and we can add a picture to them as well, just so that we recognize the user as we're moving our way around the website. So we upload our image. Now we can start to give some traits to Teacup Tim so that we know what presets we're going to have when we start to use his persona. So in this case, Tim is going to be a user who came here from paid search, having searched for the phrase teacups. We could add some more here. We could give Tim a basket value. We could set Tim's device. This is all we're interested in for now. So we save those changes. And now we can go back to our page and we can launch our preview as again. And now we see that Tim is available to us in this corner box up at the top here. This means I can choose to be Tim and I can see the presets that we gave for him. In this case, it's his search string, and we can see that the image comes up. If we had a bigger website here and not just this one page demo, also we could navigate through the website. So we could check the whole experience for Teacup Tim, going from first arriving on this page here. We could check that the basket works for him, and then we could work our way all the way through to checkout, being confident that we're seeing the exact experience that Tim would receive if he came to us having searched for the phrase teacups. Right, that's the end of my little demonstration of personalization. I hope you found that useful, and if you have any questions, please do get in touch. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chris, for that incredibly insightful demonstration there. Something that really stood out to me was the Personas app. I think I can really see that being a very powerful feature to help aggregate the traits and put yourself in the shoe of your audience and your customers. Very, very cool. Okay, I would now like to open up the floor to any questions from the audience. As a reminder, please drop your questions in the Q&A box below, or if you have any suggestions for our next DXplained episode, we'd also be keen to hear that too. Okay, Chris, we have just had a question come in from Christoph. Christoph has asked, how do you add more search terms?
The search term that we saw there for UTM term, that's just a free text field. So you would be able to try any combination of words and see how Magnolia would respond. But that dialogue that we saw, that's defined by you as the developer. So you could replace that with, say, a drop-down list. So that if you knew your marketing team were paying for 3 AdWords campaigns, you could restrict it down to that box so that your users could switch between the 3 different terms and see what they wanted. But all the time, it's a free text field. It can be absolutely any term, and you just type in whatever you wanted.
Brilliant. Hope that answers your question, Christoph. We've just had another question come in. Can I hook into my CRM to personalize content from it?
Yes. There's a couple of different ways to hook into a CRM. The simplest, perhaps, and perhaps the most sort of lightweight way to do it is to use the cookies that we saw there for the basket value. So perhaps you refer your user from somewhere else, from an email maybe. If you call to your CRM on the client side and write the cookie, Magnolia will pick that up when the user makes a request into Magnolia. Another way to do it, which requires some customization, is you can add more of those traits. We saw there the out-of-the-box ones about cookies, URL parameters, and request headers. But you could have Magnolia make a call in the back end and pass something that it knew to the CRM to find out what that was. So perhaps if the user has a cookie that contains an account ID, because you've made them log in, you could pass that account ID back to the CRM, find out what the CRM can tell you, and then you could treat that as the trait that you would personalize against.
Brilliant. Thank you, Chris. And we've actually got another question that's just come in from Priyanka. Could you take us through the process to add a custom trait?
I could. I think that would be outside the scope of this webinar. If you get in touch, there's an email address just on your screen there. I believe we've got some documentation online, and I can send that back to you. But essentially, yes, it's creating a filter to go into your filter chain to intercept the user's request and then go off and have a look. And then for the scope of that request, there is a container into which you can put the traits, and Magnolia will examine those traits later on. So you would have to customize the filter to say, well, how do I recognize this particular trait? But once it's there and it's recorded against the user's request as it comes through Magnolia, the rest of the framework that we saw there, that would hook in. Your users would see the same UI, they could enter values in the same way, and Magnolia would respond accordingly.
Brilliant. Thank you, Chris. And thanks, Priyanka, for the question. I hope that adds a little bit more colour. But yeah, please do get in contact with the email address that we've got, and we'll be able to send you some relevant documentation. Okay, so I think we've come up on time now. So just to wrap up, I want to let you know that all the DXplained episodes are available on demand, which will be linked to you along with the recording of this DXplained episode. And I'd just like to thank you, Chris, for your time as well, answering those questions. And I hope you all got value from today's session. So yeah, if that's everything, I'd like to wish you all a great rest of the day. And we hope to see you along at our next DXplained episode. Look out for it. Take care.